So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Mike Collins here with National Sports Media Association, here with Tony Jones, Utah Sportswriter of the Year. He works for The Athletic, covering the Utah Jazz. Congratulations, Tony, on winning this award.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, Tony, I want to kick this off and just kind of give us an idea of how you got into the sports writing industry, kind of where you started, how you climbed the ladder, and so forth.
It's actually an interesting story because my mother is a lifelong journalist, and so I was trying to figure out what I was going to do in my life, and my mom, when I was coming out of college, she kind of got me a couple of internships. So I had a hard news internship. And when I had that internship, I was in the newsroom one day and a call for a fatal accident came over the scanner. And it turns out, a 77-year-old man had a heart attack and passed away behind the wheel on a highway in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And, he hits a teenager head on. And when I went out there and, you saw the fatalities, I pretty much thought that sports was for me at that point. So I wanted to stay in journalism because I really like journalism. I really like the writing aspect. And, I was a basketball player in high school and college. And it was just kind of, writing about sports seemed like a natural segue for me.
Where'd you attend college?
I went to TKO Post University in Waterbury, Connecticut, and I played there.
Right on. I had folks in Waterbury actually. I used to live in Manhattan. I used to go out there for Memorial Day and for the summer and stuff. Well, wow.
Yeah, I started at Naugatuck Valley, played 2 years there, and played 2 more years at Post.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So then, going from your internship there in the Philadelphia Harrisburg area, what then kind of got you? Because obviously you're an East Coast guy, and so how'd you get all the way out to Utah covering the Jazz?
So I started at the Danbury News Times, and I was actually still in college doing that for college credit. And then the person who hired me, his name was David Bilmus. He hired me for the internship. And then once I left college, once I got out of college, Kevin Hudson, who replaced David Bilmus as a sports editor there, hired me to be kind of, a part-time person. And then when Kevin went to the White Plains Journal News, he took me with him. So I worked there, and then Kevin went back to the News Times, and then he took me back to the News Times with him. And then I went to the Daytona Beach News Journal and down in Florida. And I was covering high schools. And one day, Michael Anastasi called me and said, "Hey, we want you to be an editor at the Salt Lake Tribune, just kind of like a high school editor." And I said, "No, I want to be a writer." Because I had applied for a BYU opening, and he said, "I don't have a BYU, you're not going to get the BYU opening. We don't have enough experience, but let's get you in the door as an editor. And then when a writing slot comes open, we'll get you in as a writer." And I said, "No, I'm going to stay here because I want to be a writer. I don't want to go into the editing." And then he called me about 6 months later and he said, I have a high school writing slot open. I want you, why don't you come out? And then he hired me. And then, I worked my way up from high schools to the Jazz beat.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. Yeah. What a story, just moving all over and ending up all the way out there in Utah. Pretty area for sure. I've been
for
out
sure.
there. So kind of what would you describe as the favorite or your favorite part of your position? What do you really enjoy? What's the biggest favorite aspect of what you do?
My favorite aspect of the beat by far is telling stories and telling human interest stories. I give you so I did a story on Mike Conley this year. Just basically, his road from being an underrated point guard, just kind of overlooked to being an all-star. For the first time, he was an all-star at 33 for the first time.
First time
in like
ever.
14 years. Yeah. So, doing stories like that where, you get to where you get to chronicle, a person's life. I mean, for the Conley story, he gave me, great anecdotes in terms of, working with Greg Oden this summer, last summer, because he wanted to figure out how to better play with Rudy Gobert. And, some of the things that are behind the scenes. And, it makes me feel good when, the people that you cover trust you enough to sit down and be open with you. So that's my part. I mean, that's like my favorite part because, I like to, I'm in this to make a difference and, to make a difference in people's lives, however small and, however big those people are. So, if I can write something on Donovan Mitchell that, he really appreciates and kind of accurately conveys how he feels at the moment, then, then I feel like I've done my job. There are other parts of the job that I really love, but that's probably my favorite.
No, I actually read your piece on kind of the postscript of the Clippers series that the Jazz unfortunately lost, and I thought your breakdown of just kind of what the Jazz need going forward. Oh, did I lose you?
Sorry, no, I got somebody called me. Sorry.
Oh, okay, it's all good.
Yeah.
It all gets edited out in the wash. Yeah, your breakdown of just kind of how the Jazz need to solidify some sort of kind of better wing defender option and getting more athletic at that position. You clearly understand the team really well, and that's what I saw from watching it too. Just kind of Rudy getting picked apart in pick and roll, and that was tough. It was just tough to watch. So do you have a favorite story or game of your career that was a real big highlight? Maybe it was this past season with the Jazz itself, but any other big story from your career that you covered?
There are several. In terms of stories, one of my favorites, I think way back in 2014, I wrote something on Derek Favors and, just, I have a really good rapport with him. And, actually a month ago, I wrote something for Mother's Day on him and his mother. And his mother, recently passed away. So, that was for me, that was a really, a story that, I really loved and I'm really proud of. I think one of my favorite stories is when I first came to The Athletic, I wrote a story on Thabo Sefolosha and his, he had a run-in with the New York City Police Department and writing that story in terms of, from a perspective of him, being a person of color or being a minority. And I thought that was a really impactful story for me as well. So I would highlight that story as well.
Interesting. Really? Okay. Thank you. Do you have any tips or anecdotes to give to the emerging sports writers, someone who is trying to get into the industry and looking to grow?
Well, I think my first tip is be you. Always be who you are. Always control what you can control, because you can't control everything around you. And I think, the most important thing is, no matter what happens around you, you have to work the hardest, because the person with the best work ethic is typically the person that wins, regardless of talent. And I think that's something that I had to learn throughout my career. So and don't be afraid to embrace, or make yourself uncomfortable. One of the reasons why I feel like, I've gotten to where I am is because early in my career, Kevin Hudson and Jason Sonsky, got two guys who really helped shape my career. And, they forced me out of my comfort zone. Like, I covered, horseshoes, and I covered, so many things that were outside of, the major sports. And, it really helped me with my craft. It helped me with, my attention to detail and everything. So, those guys, Gary Howard, Mark Spears, Michael Anastasi, just a lot of people who have, Sekou Smith, rest in peace to him. Those are a lot of people who have had a lot of influence on my career, and I couldn't be anywhere close to where I am without those guys.
Oh, very, very important. Yeah, learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that
for
seems
sure.
to be a very common thread that I hear through the various interviews that I've conducted. Well, thank you so much, Tony Jones, Sports Writer of the Year. Now, this is 2 out of the last 3 years. Tony is 1. Congratulations again, and thank you so much for joining us today, Tony.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.